Okay, so hi and welcome today. I hope you had a great weekend and I hope you're ready to get learn some more English, some more expressions and proper grammar, because that's what we do. We make sure that we can speak as perfect as a native speaker. So we're going to be looking at tourism. So we know tourism is when you travel, when you go to another country and you're a tourist. You're experiencing different things, you're seeing different things, and you're enjoying it and understanding and learning. So as a tourist, what you're doing is being in tourism. And by looking at tourism, we're going to be talking about planning trips. So when we go on a trip, what are kinds of holidays that we go on? Maybe they could be on a boat, it could be on a plane, it could be a cruise ship, it could be a ride somewhere. So there's so many different kinds of trips that we can go on, and we're going to talk about that. And really important is that when you do go to another country, you always have to learn what's allowed and not allowed in another country. So what can you do and what you cannot do, what you have to do and what you don't have to do. So things like you have to get a visa, you must dress appropriately, you have to follow the road rules, you must, have to, you should. All these kind of words, they're called modal verbs, and we use them when we talk about what we must, what we should, what we have to do. So that's really important when we're traveling. We know that we have to follow the rules, the laws of a country. So we'll be looking at using those kind of words: have to, don't have to, can. And really, we're just going to be going on holidays. So talking a lot about what tourists do, and what they should do, what they shouldn't do, what they can do, and what they don't have to do. Okay, so that's today's lesson. Really important. We know we use a lot of this grammar when we're traveling and understanding another country. So before we get into that, let's listen to a short little conversation. And we're listening to a conversation with a man that is in Jordan. So on page 129. Now, Jordan is a country in the Middle East. And we've got this image. We want to know why there is a table in the middle of nowhere, in the desert. So we're going to listen to this conversation. It's about a man in Jordan, in a country. So it says here, the desert in Jordan. And why is there this table in the middle? Okay, and which kind of holiday is he on? Is he on a camping trip, backpacking? Is he sightseeing? Is he traveling, taking a holiday by the beach? Is he hiking in the mountains? Okay, so we're going to listen to the audio and see the information that we can get about this man traveling in Jordan, okay, a country in the Middle East. Okay, so let's listen to the audio and answer these questions here.
Track 101. When I was 19, I took a gap year between school and university. I saved some money and then I went backpacking around
the world. My favorite memory is when I was traveling in the desert in Jordan and I met some local people. They were called Bedouin and they lived in tents in the desert. They were very friendly and invited me for tea. It was a hot afternoon, but they put the table outside and made hot tea. We all sat in the middle of the desert, drank tea, and watched the sun go down. It was wonderful.
Okay, so we can see that his type of holiday was backpacking around the world. Okay, so he was backpacking. That means he takes very little stuff, a few clothes, a few items, and he's just traveling, so really lightly. He's not taking a lot of stuff with him, and around the world. So he's going to many countries. Now, we heard that he said that he has a gap year. Now, a gap year is 1 year when you finish high school, and before you go straight away to university, you will travel. So it's a year between when you finish high school to before you go to university. It's called a gap year. So he said that he was in Jordan, and he met local people called Bedouin. So these are people that live in the desert. And he met these local people. It was so hot. And he said that they invited him to have tea. So that's why there's a table, because these people, they live in the desert, and they invited him to come and drink tea. Okay, so we know if we talk about different kinds of holidays, as I said, there's so many different kinds. We can go to kinds of holidays where it's backpacking, maybe it's in a cruise ship on a boat. So many different types of holidays. So when you plan your trip, when do you usually plan it? Do you plan it so many months before? Do you plan it and then straight away book it? Maybe you travel by 1 or 2 weeks. Some people like to take a lot of time to organize their trips, and some people, they just book it and go straight for the trip. So people can do lots of different ways, how soon they book their trip. And what do you do before you go on a holiday? Do you make a list? I know I do. I make a long list of the things that I need. I make sure I have my passport. I make sure I have the visa. I check the things for the country. So really important that we do that. Now let's read an article. It's called Information for Tourists and Visitors in Australia. Before we read this, I just wanted to tell you, because I want you to look at the grammar when we're reading. So we've got to have to, which another way to say it is must, should. It means that something is very important, that it's necessary, it's an order. So it comes from a modal verb, that's the type of grammar, and I'm telling you what you have to do because you must do it. It's very, very, very important. So how do I create saying this to someone? So I have a subject. So we know the subject is I, you, he, she, it, we, they, you all. So here I might want to put you if I'm telling someone what they have to do, or maybe I if I have to do something. Now have, we know have is for I have, you have, we have, and they have. But has to is for he, she, or it. And then we have the main action, the verb. There's no ed, there's no ing, there's no s. It's the verb does not change. It's the same for all the subjects. Okay, so an example of this could be, I have to pass this level before I can go to the next. Okay, so it's really, really important. Subject, I have to, and then the main action, the main verb is pass. I have to pass this level. Or I could say, you have to try the local food. It's amazing. So I'm telling someone what I think. You have to do this. You should try the local food. You must. I can use any of these words. They're all the same. You must, you should, you have to. Now, if I want to use these ones, it becomes, it is very important to try the local food. It is necessary to try the local food. But it's usually, we want to just practice this one. Have to. Okay, so you can see I'm telling you what's important. You have to do something. You must do it. It's really important. And I could be telling you advice like you should, prepare your visa. You have to book your tickets online. You have to do a lot of things. You have to, make sure you have the right weight in your luggage. You have to have a visa. You have to go through customs. You have to prepare and, pack your bags early. So to make it a negative, that means you don't have to do something. It's not important. It's not necessary. We have the subject. So I, you, he, she, it, we, they. And then if it's the same as with the have, the same subject, so I don't, you don't, we don't, they don't, and doesn't is for he, she, it. So I don't, and then you must put the have to, and then the main action. So it becomes a sentence like, I don't have to work on the weekends. I don't have to use this pen. I don't have to play soccer tomorrow. Now, if we're talking about traveling, you don't have to have a visa. Some countries, you don't have to have a visa. You don't have to wait for, maybe I'm telling you, you don't have to wait for a taxi. I will pick you up. Or you don't have to take a lot of things with you because you can buy things at the airport. Or you don't have to, whatever. You don't have to buy your ticket. You don't have to. He, she, it doesn't have to. Yeah, she doesn't have to come with you. You can go by yourself. Or he doesn't have to spend so much money. It's a cheap country. It's affordable country. Okay, so only he, she, or it. If I'm talking about someone else, she or he, then I have to say has to, or for the negative, doesn't have to. Okay, so that's, like I said, when I'm telling someone what they must do, what they should do, it's really, really important. So let's read an article now and take notice of this grammar. Have a look at this grammar and how they use to make a positive sentence. How do they make a negative sentence? Okay, so let's have a read. We'll read together so that you could hear my pronunciation and you can copy the way that I read. Okay, so this is the article. So the title is Information for Tourists and Visitors in Australia. Number 1, you have to get a holiday visa from the Australian Embassy before you leave. Tourists can stay for a maximum of 6 months. You can't work in Australia without a work visa. You have to get a visa from the Australian Embassy in your country. Number 2, the currency is Australian dollar. Most shops, hotels, and banks in large cities accept credit cards. In smaller towns, always have cash with you. Number 3, Australia is a multicultural country. So there are many different languages. Most people speak or understand English. Number 4, the climate is different in different areas of the country. Summers are very hot and the temperature is often over 40 degrees. Always use lots of sunscreen and wear a hat. Number 5, tourists don't have to get a new driver's license. But if you stay here for more than 1 year, you have to take an Australian driving test. Okay, so we can see there was a lot of have to, what you must do. So I can see number 1, it's talking about the visa, how long you can stay, can you work. So this looks like it's information about the visa. So for number 1, I would put visa. Number 2, the currency, that means the money. And it tells you about, you know, you can use credit card. In the smaller towns, you have to have cash though. So this looks like it's talking about the money of the country. Number 3, Australia is a multicultural country. It looks like it's talking about the language. It's telling us that, you know, you're going to find many people from all over the world. So you're going to hear lots of different languages. Number 4, it looks like it's talking about the weather, the climate. That means the weather. Tells us it's very hot. You must have sunscreen, wear a hat. And the last paragraph was about the driver's license or the road travel. So it's telling us that you don't have to get a new driver's license, but if you stay here after 1 year, you must do the Australian driving test. Okay, so just a bit more of grammar. You can see they also used can. So we'll talk about can in a moment. But can, because you could see they said tourists can stay for a maximum of 6 months. You can't. So negative, you can't. So can, we talked before about have to and must and should. But can is when I'm saying what's allowed. So what is possible? It's like if you want to, you have a choice. Okay, it's not very, very important, but you can, if you want to, you're allowed to do it. So it's what's allowed. That means you're allowed to do. So how do I make a sentence? I have a subject. Again, I, you, he, she, it, we, they. And then I put can and then the verb. And the verb, there's no ed, there's no ing, it's just the verb. So it's the same for all subjects. So it's sentences like, I can see you next weekend, or I can see you on the weekend. I can work next week. I can buy you lunch. Okay, so I'm showing you what you can do. If it's about tourism, you can travel to Australia and you can see so many different beaches. So I'm telling you, if you want, you know, you can see the kangaroos, you can see a lot of wildlife. If you come to Australia, you can enjoy great weather, both winter and summer. You can travel to all sorts of different countries. So can, that's how I use can. Now to make it a negative, I have a subject and then I say cannot. Now we can connect this to say can't. Okay, so I can connect this if I want. And when I do connect it, it becomes like this, can't or cannot. So now this means it's not possible. You're not allowed to do it. Okay, it's prohibited. You're not allowed to. So for example, I cannot work next week. I can't work on Friday. And if it's about tourism, you can't smoke, on the local bus. You can't smoke in buildings. You can't, stay more than your visa. You can't cause problems. You can't do a lot of stuff. So I'm telling you what is not allowed. So you're not allowed to. You can't do something. You're not allowed to do it. Okay, it's wrong. It's not right. You'll get into trouble. You can't do something. Okay, so that's another one. It's called can. Okay, so we talked before about have to. Okay, what's important, what you have to do, and how to make it a negative. And now we just talked about can, what you're allowed to do, and negative, what you can't do. Okay, so if someone says, I've been a tourist here for 7 months. I'm going to stay a few weeks longer. So this person, they've stayed for 7 months. Have they followed the information for tourists? No, because it says tourists can stay for a maximum of 6 months. So she said, I've been a tourist in Australia for 7 months. I'm going to stay more. So no, she hasn't read the information. She cannot stay more than 6 months. So you can see how I'm responding with a negative. She can't stay. This person says, I got a work visa before I left home. Yes, they did. Okay, they read, because it says here you have to get a visa before you leave. So they read the instructions. They know what they need to do. So you can put a tick. That's good. I got a work visa before I left home. That's good. They understood. I've changed most of my money to US dollars. That's bad because we do not use US dollars. It says here, the currency is Australian dollars. So this person that said, I've changed money to US, they haven't read the information. I'm working here for 6 months. I don't know if I can drive. They haven't read it because they're allowed to drive up to 1 year. So this person has not read the instructions. I've bought sunscreen because of the heat. That's good. They have read the instructions. They know that the climate is very hot. Always use a lot of sunscreen. So this person, I've bought sunscreen. That's good. They have read the instructions. Okay, so only number 2 and number 5, these 2 comments, yes, they have read the instructions. Okay, let's talk about some vocab when we're in another country. Climate, we know climate is like the temperature. It's just another word for temperature. The currency, that's money, okay, that you use to pay something. License, so when you get a car license, driver's license, there's, multicultural, that means that there's people from lots of different culture, from lots of different places in the world. Right-hand side, okay, that means that in Australia, we must drive on the right-hand side of the car. Temperature, just another word for, is it warm? Is it cold? What's the feeling? outside, the air. And visa. Visa is something you need when you go to another country. It lets you go to the country. So let's read here and put in those words. So for employment in Brazil, most people need a work visa. The Brazilian real is the national currency. That's the national money. That's what people use, currency. Portuguese is the official language, but Brazil is a multicultural country with over 200 different languages. Brazil is a huge country, so the climate can change between the north and the south. However, it's usually warm, and in the summer, the temperature is often very high. Drive on the right-hand side of the road. You have to carry your driver's license when you drive. Okay, so these are the words: visa, currency, multicultural, climate, temperature, right-hand side, and the last one, license. So this is a hard one to spell, license. Okay, so I called it travel checklist because we're making sure we know what we can or cannot do when we go to another country. So in Brazil, the currency used in Brazil is the real. Previously, you didn't need a visa to enter Brazil. Now, that's good. You didn't need, but I want to practice saying have to. So previously, now because you are putting it in the past, you didn't have to. So need is good, but I just want to practice have to. So can you see how we made it a negative? You didn't have to get a visa to enter Brazil. I just want to practice this one, have to. So you didn't have to get a visa to enter Brazil, but on October the 10th, 2024, wow, just recently, a new law came into force where citizens of Australia, Canada, and the United States need a visa to enter Brazil. So I'll remember that. Only this month, now there's a new law that you have to get a visa to Brazil. But before, you didn't have to get a visa. The temperature in summer averaged 30 degrees and in winter 15 degrees. But in some southern states, temperatures are colder all year round. Perfect. So you told me about the temperature. Drivers drive on the left-hand side in Brazil and must always have their driver's license on them. That means make sure it's with you. So you must always have your driver's license. So good, you said must. Again, and have to. We just want to practice have to, and have to always have their driver's license on them. I might put always here, and always have to have their driver's license on them. Brazil is a multicultural country, bringing its history, several colonizations. Remember the Z, we don't use Z in Australia, from around the world. Yeah, bringing in its history from several different colonizations from around the world, such as Germans, Asians, and Turks. Wow, I had no idea about the Asians and the Turks. I know the Germans. I didn't know about the Asians and the Turks. So that's a very good information. It's very good, you know, tourist travel checklist. I know I have to get a visa. I know that, you know, the temperature, I can wear, you know, I don't have to have a jacket, or maybe in winter, yes. But in summer, I don't have to have a jacket. It seems like the weather is good. And I have to drive on the left-hand side. And I'm going to see lots of different cultures. So that's good. So very good writing. Thank you, Eloise, for telling us about Brazil and what we have to and don't have to do. Okay, so you can say need and must, yes, because they're all the same words, like you have to, you must, you need, but I just want to practice, you're welcome, using have to. Okay, Javiera, a holiday visa must be obtained from the Chilean embassy or online. Good. So I just want to put it as you have to obtain a holiday visa from the Chilean embassy or online. Okay, good. So I know I have to do this. I have to get my visa before I go to Chile. The currency is the Chilean peso. Chile is a long country, so the climate can change between north and south. However, it is usually cold in winter and hot in summer. Okay, good. So I know the temperature, it didn't make us use have to, but okay, I guess it's cold in winter, so I have to bring a jacket maybe, and hot in summer, so I have to bring light clothes in summer. Okay, jacket in winter, light clothes in summer. People drive on the right-hand side of the road. Okay, so you have to drive. I know I know the question asked us like this, but I'm just going to change it. You have to drive on the right-hand side of the road. You have to carry your driver's license. Good. And I might again use the same as Eloise, and you always have to carry your driver's license when you drive. Good. So we're just changing it more to make sure we can practice telling people what you have to do. So I have to drive on the right-hand side, and I have to carry my driver's license. Good. Spanish is the official language, but in Chile, I might say locals, they, because who's they? Yeah, I know you mean the locals, but you have to, you can say they after, but the first time you mention your subject, you have to be clear exactly who are you talking to about. So locals speak a different, so Spanish is the official language, but in Chile, locals speak a different language from Spanish of Spain. It's a bit difficult to understand. Okay, good. So I know that I have to maybe learn a little bit of Spanish. So here we can say you can learn some Spanish before traveling here. But, because you said, but in Chile, the locals speak a different language from the Spanish of Spain. Okay? So you can learn some Spanish before traveling here, but just be aware. That means like just know that, but just be aware that we don't say Chile locals, we say Chileans or the locals. Oh, sorry, you had, but yeah. But just be aware that the locals speak a different language from the Spanish of Spain. Okay, good. So I just, then I might add which is a bit difficult to understand. Okay, so good. So we had the sentence that Spanish is the official language. Now I want to practice can or have to. So you can learn some Spanish before traveling here. The reason I said can and not have to, because I don't have to do it. Like it's not important that I have to speak Spanish because I can travel and still speak English. But you said can. Now, can is showing me that if I want to, I have an option. If I want to, I can learn Spanish, which would be good because it will be easy to speak to the locals. And I like here, but you said, but just be aware. That means like, just know that the locals speak a different language from the Spanish of Spain, which is a bit difficult to understand. Okay, good. I like it. I understood what I have to do, what I can do. Well done. I might go back to Eloise. Maybe let's put some can. So drivers drive on the left-hand side. So again, I might change Eloise to say you must, you have to. So you have to drive on the left-hand side of Brazil and always have to have your driver's license on you. Brazil is a multicultural country. Okay, good. We need a visa, the temperature. Okay. So now let's have a look. I just sent that back to you, Eloise, the new one. Let's have a look. So Curly, China uses the renminbi. That's the currency. I never hear of this one. Not the yen, Curly. The yen, the money. Is this the money? Ah, not yen. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I didn't know. So we put it in a capital letter to show renminbi. Is that how I say it? Okay. So China uses the renminbi currency. You must obtain. So good, but we want to practice have to. So you have to obtain an entry visa to enter China. Good. Okay. It's really important. You have to. We're driving on the right. So again, you have to, or you must, okay? You have to drive on the right side of the road. The weather varies from region to region. In my hometown, good. I like that you're telling me about your place. In my hometown, Guangdong, Providence, it is usually 32 degrees in summer. That's beautiful. And about 10 degrees in winter. Sounds like Australia. China is a very technological place. So you don't, that's very good. So you don't have to. Now, again, you can say what you said before, that you don't need, but I just want to practice have to. So you don't have to bring anything to prove your identity. Wow. All your information can be found on the internet. Wow. So I don't need to bring my license, my nothing. They just look your name on the internet. Wow. Okay. Full stop. In the big cities, you will meet a lot of, so again, I want to practice you can. Okay, you can say you will, but I just want to practice can. If you want, in the big cities, you can meet a lot of international friends. I wouldn't say friends because friends means someone that I know very well. I'll just say people. Okay, so you can meet a lot of international people from all over the world. Full stop. Make sure you're using full stop, not a comma. China is also a diversified country. I might connect that sentence, which makes China a diversified country because there's people from all over the world. Okay, good. So we know China uses the renminbi currency. So I know I have to change my Australian dollars to the renminbi currency. I know I have to obtain an entry visa. I know I have to drive on the right-hand side. I don't have to. I like the negative. I don't have to bring anything to prove my identity because all your information can be found on the internet. In the big cities, I can meet a lot of international people from around the world, which makes China a diversified country. So good. Okay, Henry, if you come to Vietnam, okay, so if you come to Vietnam, comma, because that's a connecting sentence, you can exchange money at the airport or the gold shop in the center. Good, I like can. So if you want, you can exchange it at the airport or if I want to, at the gold shop in the center. So where they sell gold, I can go to a place where they sell gold and I can say, I have Australian dollars. I want to change to the Vietnamese currency. Okay, full stop. You can go anywhere you want. Good. I like using can if you want. You can go anywhere you want. You're allowed to. Sejong only has 2 seasons, sunny and rainy. The temperature is about 28, so make sure it's this one, 28 to 35 degrees. The weather here is erratic, sunny and rainy, but the rain here, so I might take off here. We don't need it 2 times. So the weather, so you said the temperature is about 28 to 35 degrees. The weather is erratic, sunny and rainy, but the rain goes away very quickly. Yeah. So the weather, I might say, can be erratic. That means it just can be a bit crazy sometimes. It can change. So it can be sunny. It can be sunny and rainy, but then the rain can go away very quickly. You cannot, well done, nice negative. You cannot drive in Saigon because there are a lot of cars here. Wow, I like that. About 4.5 million two-wheeled vehicles, nearly 5 million cars. The most important thing so the most important thing is that you have to, we can say must, but I just want to practice have to, is that you have to apply for a Vietnamese visa. Good. So really good. Well done. The last one, I didn't see a comment from Yana. So if you add your comment, I can fix your English for you. But good. I think I've got, wow, that's crazy. Oh my God, that's unbelievable.
Everybody, tourists come to the let's help the driver in the Ho Chi Minh.
Yes.
The same in the Schumacher, Schumacher, the racing.
Yes, the racing, yes.
The driver in the Vietnam can drive the same in Schumacher. Schumacher can come here.
I know what you mean. He won't be able to drive because you can't. That's crazy. Wow.
Everywhere, every time.
Yes.
Everywhere, every time.
Just like this
only,
busy.
Yeah. Only
wow.
Saigon.
Only Saigon. Yeah.
Never sleep.
Yes, the city that never sleeps.
You can eat every time.
Any hour of the day. That's amazing. So you should write that actually. That was actually very good. That you can eat any hour of the day. So I know this is extra, but I might add that because I like that. You can go anywhere you want at any time of the day and can eat any hour of the day. That means because everything is open. So any hour that you want to eat something, you're going to find a shop. So good. I just added that for you. Can. I like that. Amazing. Okay, good. So that's what we had, travel checklist, making sure we know when we travel what we can, what we cannot do, what we have to do, what we don't have to do. Okay, they're two very different words. So make sure when you say you have to, it's because it's very, very important. But if I say I can is not important. Can is if you want, you have an option. Okay, so be very careful because I know a lot of people confuse when to use have to and when to use can. Okay, and make sure you know the negative. Okay, so which verbs, I'm at page 131. Number 6, which verb means it is necessary? Have to or has to. Okay, so this means it is necessary. Which verb means it is possible? Can. Which verb means it is not necessary? Have to. Well, don't have to actually. Okay, it's not necessary. You don't need to do it. So you don't have to do something. It's not necessary. It's not important. Remember, necessary and important are like the same words. Which verb means it is not possible? Cannot. Yeah, it's not possible. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to smoke. You cannot smoke inside. You cannot do that. Which form of the verb comes after the verbs in the bold? Well, the main action. So imagine I have this one in bold. This is the main action. Okay, so which form of the verb comes after? It's like the present, you could say. It's present main action. Okay, we have some sentences. So I have, number 7.1, I have to start work at 9 every day. Okay, so I have to start work at 9 every day. I have to start work at 9 every day. They don't have to get a visa. They don't, negative, have to get a visa. He can't swim. He can't smoke in the airport. In the airport. Tourists, so that's our subject. Tourists can pay with the dollar in shops. She can check in. She can check in at reception. Yeah. So sometimes you'll hear the hotel, they'll say, okay, you can check in after 2 o'clock. That means if you want to, you don't have to come at 2 o'clock, but you can check in anytime after 2 o'clock. So can, if you want to. In my country, you have to telephone. We're going to do the Australian one. You have to call 000 for the police or for emergency. Okay, so I just want to change that to make it for Australia. So in my country, you have to telephone, or really we say call. Call is more the common verb than telephone. You have to call 000. So we say this is 000 or 000 for the police, for ambulance, for emergency. So we say not just police, emergency. Okay, just to give you a different sentence, you have to call 000 in my country, in Australia, for emergency. Okay, let's look at some symbols and see what is happening. So you could see in the first one, you have to, this shows me drive on left in Australia. So you have to drive on the left-hand side. The second image, tourist, it looks like it's red and there's a cross like this. So tourist can't take photos here. Okay, you're not allowed to. You cannot take photos. You're not allowed to. Guests, it looks like they have to. It's important. They have to check out or they have to leave their room before 11 a.m. So guests must or have to check out at 11 a.m. This one says music and disco in the hotel bar tonight, free for all guests. So if you want guests, it looks like it's free. They don't have to pay. Okay, they don't have to. It's not important. This image here, it says you, looks like can. It's green. You can smoke in this area. You don't have to. It's not important. But if you want, you are allowed to smoke. You have the option if you want. So you can smoke. Number 6, out of order. It's a lift, so you can't. It's not possible because it's not working. So you can't use the hotel lift. Number 7, looks like there's business class and economy. So business class passengers don't have to wait. And number 8, all passengers have to show their passport because it's the passport control, the area where you must show your passport. So all passengers have to. Okay, let's listen to some pronunciation of have to and don't have to.
Track 103, Unit 11A. 1.
You have to drive on the left-hand side.
3.
Guests have to leave their room before 11 a.m.
4.
Guests don't have to pay.
7.
Business class passengers don't have to wait.
8.
All passengers have to show their passport.
Okay, and visiting another country as a tourist. So we can say sentences like, you have to visit Argentina. So when I tell someone this, it's because I have been there, I have the experience, and I'm telling someone, you have to do it. It was amazing. You have to go to Argentina. Okay, you have to visit Europe someday. Okay, maybe you have to visit Europe someday. Okay, so you can make a sentence where you put about your country. So you have to visit Chile. We have the best local seafood or something. Or you have to visit Vietnam to see maybe some big, place. Or, you have to visit China, mainland China to, experience authentic Chinese food. studying at your local school. So you could say a sentence like, you don't have to study at your local school. You know, you can study in another country, you can study online. Okay, you don't have to study at your local school because, so when I say don't, I really should give a reason why, because you can study online. Okay, so you don't have to study at your local language school. Working for your company, you can't bring your bike. You can't bring your bike into work or to work. Maybe you can't use your phone when you are working. Okay, so I'm imagining I'm at work, and maybe this is sentences that I might tell some people at work. This was some sentences that I might tell someone if they're studying. You know, you can study online. You can or if you want, you know, you have to study at your local English school, or you can. I don't know if I would say you have to, but you can study at your local English school. They have great courses. And with traveling, you have to visit Europe someday. Maybe as a negative, you don't have to see all the countries in Europe. You don't have to have a visa for a certain country. Maybe you don't have to have a visa for Paris. Okay, so you could see how we used have to and how we used can to talk about planning a trip. But how about if we are on a holiday? So what kind of tourist are you? Let's look at some of this idea. If you're a tourist, page 132, tourist A, do you always buy a return ticket? So a return ticket it means a two-way ticket. That means that I'm from one place to another and then I come back. It's a return ticket. So maybe I'm going to Argentina and then I have Adelaide to Argentina, Argentina to Adelaide. Okay, it's a return ticket. Another word is a two-way ticket. Check in more than one bag. Now, just before I talk in the check-in, a single ticket is the opposite of a return ticket. So I can have one ticket, maybe just from Adelaide to Paris, and then that's it. Maybe I'm going to work in Paris for, you know, some time. Or it's called a one-way ticket. Carry on. Now, this is interesting. Carry on is the bag that you take with you on the plane. Okay, so luggage or bag, they're the same words. So carry on bag, or it could be called your personal item. And usually it's about 5 kilograms, I think, on the plane. So that means you carry it on, you take it with you on the plane. But it's very different to your check-in luggage. Okay, so your check-in luggage is the bag that will go on the plane. So you have to line up, check it in, and then pick it up at the airport. So one of your bag will come with you on the plane. And if you do have another one, it will go on the plane. This one's about 30 kilograms. This one is more. They let you carry more. Book a hotel. That's really interesting. We book a hotel. We book an Uber. You can book a restaurant. You can buy souvenirs. That means gifts. They're like little gifts of the country. You know, when you want to come back home, you can give souvenirs to your family and friends. Sightseeing, Okay, it just means that you go to see all the places that are interesting in the country. So if I said, hey, what are you doing today? Oh, I'm sightseeing. That means I'm going around the city to see many things. And you only sightsee when you're in another country. You don't do it in your own country. And rent, you can rent a car, you can rent a motorcycle. Okay, so that's some vocab. So let's have a look. Do you tick which one is you? Do you always buy a return ticket? So for me, yes, because I have to come back home. Do you always check in more than one bag? Maybe sometimes, not always, but sometimes I check in one bag, sometimes no. Do you book the hotel in advance? Yes. I always make sure that I book my hotel in advance. That means before I arrive there. Maybe I book at the same time with my ticket, with my flight ticket. Do you rent a car? Not really. Sometimes it depends which country, but not really. Do you buy souvenirs? I do. I buy souvenirs for friends and family and for myself. And some people have something that they always buy, maybe like magnets to put on your fridge, or maybe you always buy, some people buy like cups or something for the country, you know. In Australia, you might buy like little kangaroo, you know, to take home for your daughter or something like that. So that's a souvenir. Do you use a tour guide? It depends, not always. So not really. Only if I'm by myself, I might do a tour guide because I feel safe in a group. But if I'm traveling with someone, then no, I don't have a tour guide. Okay, so that you have to tick if this is for you, yes or no. Do you like sightseeing? Yes, of course. I like going around the city and seeing different things. Do you often buy a single ticket? No. So remember the single ticket? No, because I need to come back home. Do you take one carry bag on? I do. Yeah, I always have one bag that comes with me on the plane. Do you find a hotel after you arrive? No, because I book my hotel before. Do you use public transport? Yeah. Yeah, I like to, you know, see how locals, how they go around in their public transport. And of course, because it's cheap. So yeah, I do use public transport. Maybe the bus, the train. Yeah, I use public transport. Do you buy local foods at the market? Yes. So, do you learn some phrases in the local languages? Yeah, not a lot, but I do. So local phrases. That means words like sayings, like how you would say, hi, how are you? Can I please get? Do you have? So yeah, sometimes I learn, excuse me. Can you repeat that? Like short words, you know, not long sentences, just very short words so that I can communicate if I'm going to the markets or buying something. And do you meet local people? Sometimes, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna read a questionnaire from a tourism magazine and find the words in the questionnaire to match these definitions. So just the same question. So a ticket for travel to a place and back is this one. Okay, a ticket to travel to a place and back. A ticket for travel to a place but not back is this one, the single ticket. You carry this bag onto the plane. That's called your carry-on luggage. You telephone for a hotel before you arrive. That's called book a hotel. Special objects you buy on a holiday, souvenirs. Give your bag to the airline so they can put it on the plane. Check-in luggage. Looking at famous and interesting places, sightseeing. Pay to use something. Rent for a certain amount of time. Maybe you want to rent a car for 5 days or 1 week. Okay, really quickly, we also have just some words. So to tour is the action, but you know, tourism is the industry. That's what everything is called tourism. If you're a tourist, that means you're a person traveling. And if you have a tour guide, that's someone to show you around the city. So you can see this word, how it's used in many different words. Tour, tour, tour. The same as travel. So the action to travel. You have a traveler, that's a person that travels, and a travel mate or a travel partner, someone you travel with. To visit. Okay, to visit. A visitor is someone who comes to see something, and the visitor center. I go to get information to the visitor center. To drive, that's the action. If I drive a car and I have a driver, somebody to drive the car, driving instructor, somebody who teaches me how to drive, and I can have a driver's license. That's a card that shows me I have passed and I have learned how to drive. We could do it with the word to cook. Okay, you got a cookery course, the course to cook, the cookbook. Okay, so that didn't do with travel, so I'll take it off. Okay, so that's what we have for talking about planning a trip. Okay, so let's remember planning a trip. We talked about the most important grammar. When I tell someone what's important, what do you have to do? You must, or you don't have to do it. Remember he, she? We have a different words for he, she. But can is different. If you want, you have an option. You can do something. You're allowed to do it. It's possible. Or you can't. You're not allowed to do something. And the most other important grammar was those two grammar and just lots of vocab. Okay, so that's all that we have for now. So it was just planning a trip, really important. We need to know what we can do and cannot do when we go to another country. We have to follow the laws of that country, the regulations. Regulation means the laws. And we have to be careful that we are doing something correctly or not doing something correctly, that we have to make sure we do something. We have to get a visa. We have to check in. We have to do something. Or maybe we don't have to. It's not important. Or if we want, we can. You know, we can drive or we can take public transport or we can visit the local markets. Okay, so that was using a lot of vocab and grammar with planning a trip and being on holidays.